Hello and welcome guys to another track guide, and today we have the final week of the Mazda Fix series at Charlotte Motor Speedway Road Course. So let's jump straight into it. Let's watch the Hotlap first and then we'll get on with the track guide. Okay, so the biggest thing with this track that I found is the track limits are a bit all over the place. You can use more track than you think you can on some corners and less than you think you can on other corners. It's really about momentum, and also you do not need to brake as much as you think you do. Now, coming into the first corner, we're going to be as far to the right as possible, and we're looking for the number 1 board. Just at the number 1 board, I'm going to lift off the throttle and just slightly tap the brakes for rotation, and aiming to apex the curb. Just on the red and white curb though, try not to hit too much of the blue or purple curb, because that can unsettle the car too much. So as you see there, only about 20 to 25% brake pressure. Then letting the car coast in. As you see, we're trying to aim for this gap in between this blue and red and white curbing, and then getting on the throttle just before we hit the curb to lift the front of the car up. Now, if you notice, the barrier is really wide here, and then it gets narrower on the exit of the track. So make sure, especially in race conditions as your tyres wear out, that you don't over push on the exit of turn 1, because this barrier can catch you out. As you see, getting very close to the barrier. Coming into this left-hander, as you see, I'm kind of holding this this left steering angle through the whole corner to try and get as close to this barrier on the left here, just trying to be smooth and not scrub off any speed. So coming into this right-hander, this is going to be our braking board. We're going to brake just before that, 30% brake pressure. Here I don't trail the brakes enough, I come off them a bit too quickly, which is why I get a bit of snap oversteer, but I correct it. You can let the car drift out wide, you don't need to go all the way out, 3/4 to the left is fine as well. This lap I go all the way out, drop into second gear here. You can just touch the brakes if you need a little bit of rotation, let it coast, and then as soon as you make that apex, get on the power nice and early and use all this exit here. Track limits is the grass. Now coming into this right-hander, I'm starting to turn in just before we get to this painted curb. I'm aiming to hit my left wheel on this corner here and then apex here, again avoiding this high curb. As you see, just going over the edge of this and just hitting this red and white curbing. Let the car drift out wide, full throttle. As soon as I straighten the wheel, I'm hitting the brakes. This is fairly hard braking, about 40-50%. Trail the brakes into the right-hander, get on the throttle nice and early, and we're aiming to get as close to this barrier as possible. Now, want to hold the right steering angle. Get on the power once we know we're not going to drift wide into the grass. As you see, this is blind, so we don't want to go too wide here. I want to hug this curb on the left hand side. Usually you can do it full throttle, but depending on your tyres and track conditions you may need to lift a little bit. I shift up into third gear. Here on this lap I do have to lift a little bit. This is my braking and turning marker for the left hander. So just after here, as you see, I hit the brakes, just a little bit for the rotation, getting on the power, trying to just keep the rear of the car stable, and we're aiming to get as close to this barrier as possible. As you see, another little lift just to get the rotation. I get super close on this lap. I honestly thought I was going to hit it super close on this lap, and as soon as I know that I've hit this apex, then I'm going full throttle and using all the exit here. You can go nice and high and then bring it back down. Now coming into the chicane, we're going to get over to the right hand side of the track, looking out for the number 2 board coming into this chicane. This is very difficult in my opinion, this corner. So just after that 2 meter board, the number 2 board before the number 1 board, we're braking quite hard to about 80% and then trailing the brakes. I use a lot of curb on the left here, get on the throttle a little bit just to lift the car up as we go over the curb. Here I brake about 30%, maybe 35%, just to get the rotation for the right hander here. Try with this curb to not use too much of it because you can just drift wide into this wall, and make sure you're on the power just before you hit the wall. Here I just gave it a little blip just to rotate the rear and then get back on the power, but as you see this barrier gets narrow on the exit, so that's why you have to make sure you don't take too much of that apex curve because otherwise you will hit this barrier. Then turning left you can cut a bit of this blue line. I think it's a 1 second slowdown if you drop below the blue line anywhere else on the track, but that corner is okay. Now coming into the final 2 corners, unfortunately I locked up on this lap, so ignore my terrible braking here, but see, this is a straight line here and then this is a bend, so where those 2 points meet about here, that's my braking marker. So as you see there, just before there is my braking marker. Here I think I just braked a little bit too high percent and also turned the wheel a little bit, which is why I locked up here. So as you see, I don't quite hit the perfect apex, but we're aiming to hit just a little bit of this blue curb, not too much. Hit that curb, make sure we're on the power to keep the car lifted up at the front as we hit the curb. And then this one we can really attack this curb as well. Just be careful that, especially if you lift or anything like that, that you don't then drift wide and hit the wall in the final corner. So as you see, I'm on the power, using all the curb. I lift just slightly to 80% and then full throttle and get a little bit of oversteer, but able to keep it in check for the end of the lap. So that is it guys, hope you enjoyed. As always, thank you for watching and see you again next time.